be a sponge, and then bring the juice.
By focusing on your improvement, by focusing on your progress, and eliminating any fixed mindset that you may have and acts of perfectionism, then you encourage your own mastery.
On some level, we do what we want to do 24 hours a day. Now, sometimes it may not seem like that, but if I'm choosing to work instead of sleep, what I'm actually saying is keeping my job is more important than sleeping.
I'm tired of this. I'm tired of getting beat. What can I do to get over this hump? So mentally, that's when I kind of put that forefront, like, hey, it's either all or nothing.
I like to put failure in quotations because I don't believe that failure is true failure if you're looking at it with the right mindset.
The truth is, the journey to greatness is hard. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes focus, and every day you have to decide what you value, what you want to pursue, and what you want to achieve. And if you dig deep enough, if you push hard enough, we all have what it takes to be great. Welcome to the Edge of Greatness.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Edge of Greatness podcast. I'm your host, Charles Schultz, and today I'm very excited to welcome back to the show author, speaker, coach, Kate Leavell. Kate, thanks so much for taking time to join me today.
Hey, I'm so excited to be back. This is great.
Awesome. Since the last time we talked, you've been really busy. You got 2 books out, speaking, Power Positive Summit. I saw you on there. And then what else am I missing? I'm sure there's a lot.
Oh, gosh. You know what? It's all kind of blurring together, to be honest. I wasn't expecting to have a second book, just a year after the first one, but this message was just laying on my heart and needed to come out. And so here we are. So now I got 2 out there, and really cool. They kind of go together. One is very, built for teams, and the other one is really built for that individual and transitioning into building a certain culture. So they go hand in hand really well.
Hey, that's awesome. So tell me something that you learned about yourself over the last year and a half doing the 2 different books and going through this process. Oh,
gosh, let's see. I think I really learned that patience is something I still need to work on. That's been the biggest one. When you put together something creative, there's a point where you're really excited and you're writing it and you're creating it. And then there's a lot of waiting and logistics and the other things that you don't necessarily enjoy. So you have to practice what you preach sometimes and talk about loving the process, loving all of it, and not just the outcome that you're excited for or the kind of the creative fun stuff, but really all of the work that goes into it. And so I'm really focusing on that part and growing that part of myself. And that's been, it's been a good journey for me.
No, I can appreciate that. I got the 2 kids now. I don't know. Last time we talked, I only had the one.
I know you had another one. It was imminent, right? I mean,
it was like right after. And then
next day or something.
Right. And then now I've got another one on the way. So I'm practicing the patience myself. It's been,
we should stop doing podcasts. You're going to have 50 if we get
right. This is probably not a good sign. So yesterday was the big day for the release of the new book, Superpower. So tell me, how are you feeling with everything so far?
I feel really good. I wasn't sure how the message was going to resonate. I knew the message would resonate, but the format being similar to Stick Together, it's a fable. It's written about younger people. And so I wasn't sure. I know it's going to hit and connect with a younger audience for sure. I mean, I say 10 to 110 for a reason. I think this is going to be, I hope it gets into every classroom. Honestly, we need it. But how are adults going to, feel when they read this? And I'll be curious to see what you think. But I really think that this is going to hit really well with adults as well, from anywhere from teams to individuals to businesses, in creating a culture where people can embrace all of who they are and all of their uniqueness and just feel free to really be themselves. So it's been really cool to get the feedback that I've gotten that, man, they wish they had that teacher growing up. They definitely related to people in the story, and that they just were like excited to share it. So it's been really fun to see, where it's landing, and I can't wait. It just started, so I can't wait to see where it goes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it wouldn't be right for me not to ask, what is your superpower?
what is my gosh, the overall message that comes from, through Superpower is really that our superpower is being inimitable. And in case you're not familiar with my new buzzword, which I love, that my buddy Trent taught me, is it means that it's unusual. It's so good that it cannot be copied. And being inimitable is a superpower. And we have a lot of superpowers that come together that form what makes us, to be unable to be copied. But if you think about a stamp that's printed upside down, or a coin that has a mistake on it, anything that is different and unique becomes this high value item. And yet we still try to copy and fit in and look like everybody else. And we don't realize that we're actually taking away that great value that we have to add. And so that just runs through the book. But that's the whole idea. Being different is our superpower. And that was my journey. I had to embrace all the things I tried to hide. I realized were the things that made me, me. When my friends look at me and go, "Oh, that's just Kate. That's the way Kate is." And I realized that's a superpower. They recognize me by that. It's part of what I add to the world.
How do we get more people to own up to accepting their differences as a superpower? Because I think that's such a powerful message that more people need to appreciate, especially our younger generation, because I feel like they want to fit in. They want to be like everyone else. They want to be the popular kid, but I don't think that's the need that we need for them to understand. We want them to understand that what they are as unique people is their special power, but how do we help them figure that out?
Yeah, a copy is never as great as the original. And so you could try to fit in with the cool crowd by looking at what they wear, what they do, and you could copy that, and you might fit in. But if you've ever gone for a job, if you've ever tried out for a team, a play, anything like that, the last thing you want to do is blend in. And when I think of fit in, I think of blend in. When you blend in, it means you don't stand out, you're not memorable. And I love, John Gordon talks a lot about Dabo Sweeney. I know he's worked with Clemson for a long time, and he talks about how at the beginning, when Coach Sweeney decided to take this team and make it great, and the board sitting around the table and telling them, "Look, we want to be like this program. We want to be like that program. Can you do that?" And he says, "No, I don't want to. I want to become a program that they want to be like." And that is the mentality shift that we've got to put out there is, why follow something else when you can be the original, when you can be the one that everyone says, "Wow, that's really cool. I want to be like that." So embracing that idea, and it comes from confidence. We don't have confidence when we're stuck in comparison and we're trying to, look at Instagram, we're trying to look at other people's lives, and we're trying to look at how other people think, and we're comparing, and we're stuck in this right or wrong mentality. And so what we have right now, of course, is this discord, just in society in general. We're always battling for right. And nobody wins when somebody's right. Or one person wins and one person loses, which means we both lose because we're not seeing eye to eye and we can't work together. And so one of the themes throughout the book is perspective. And I may be looking at an M, and you may be standing on the other side, and you might see a W, and we could argue all day long, and we will never come to any sort of consensus because we're both right and we're both wrong. And it's just a matter of what my reality is versus your reality. But instead, what if I said, "I see an M from here. Why don't you come over? I'm going to invite you to my side so you can see it. And I would love to come to your side and see what you see. And I want to know why." And we can teach this to kids. We can teach kids how to investigate. You don't think the same as me, or you think this is something else. Your reality is different. Tell me about your experience that created that reality for you so I can become a part of it. And then I want to invite you into mine. And that is that shift that's going to happen. And this is the movement that I am so, passionately behind, is how do we teach kids from an early age, and how do we reteach adults how to appreciate the fact that having a singular reality is not a life. That's not a three-dimensional picture of the world. So how do we bring that about? And that's, I think that's going to be, just a main message that I hope that people really take from this.
Yeah, that's a big challenge too, especially today, because everyone is so very fixed on their side of the vision that they're seeing, their side of the equation. And it's been a very tough one for myself, even because I've seen it in my gym. And it's an interesting thing because you would think that a place like that wouldn't see that, but that's where we're at. And so I think that perspective and that messaging is something that could be ultimately very powerful across multiple platforms, not just athletics, coaching, business, but just in life and seeing things from those different angles.
Yeah. Well, you think about a group, when we start to look for how somebody's different, and almost like we're on a treasure hunt, instead of, oh, they're not like us, but instead we're going, okay, what do you have that's different? Because, where we're alike, that's where we come together. That's where we relate. We may be in a room full of people who like to play basketball. Okay. We relate to that. We can talk about it for hours, great. That brings us together, but it doesn't make you a team. It doesn't connect you. What's going to connect you is knowing where you're unique. You add value where you bring something different. If I have 4 blue shirts and I'm cleaning out my closet, I'm not keeping 4 blue shirts. They're all the same, right? We want something that adds value. And so everybody in your team, in your group, brings something different. If you're watching old MacGyver things, and he can make all this stuff out of paper clips and, rescue himself, right? If you have a team and you're trying to solve a problem, it's to your benefit that each person brings something different so that you can all tackle something from a different side. And at the end, you get there faster. So how do we switch, our viewpoint from, okay, how are we all the same? Which is what we're taught as soon as we're younger. Put these in matching groups, sort these, put this in the right box. We're learned that message of group things that are alike, and we forget, find where we're different. That is how we're going to conquer this, is by each, bringing that unique self.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree. What I want to dig into here a little bit is, at the first part of your acknowledgments page, you say something about you had to take a journey to learn acceptance and love of yourself before you could write this book. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. And, I think the more that I've talked to people, the more I coached, especially, I realized that I wasn't alone in this. And you'll see in Trent's journey that that's part of his realization, is that, wow, I'm not the only one who doubts myself. And, you look around and we see highlight reels left and right, especially in an age of social media. And so it's very easy to say, wow, I'm going to take this low part of my life and I'm going to compare it to these highlights of other people, and I'm going to feel inadequate. And I can now take a picture and I can pinch it and I can zoom in and I can see, wow, that's flawless and that's flawless. And I don't have that. And, we're looking at everything through filters. I'm on Zoom. I'm on a filter right now. Everything is filtered to look perfect. And so how do you look in the mirror and have self-acceptance when you just can never, ever measure up to what's being put in front of you as acceptable? Not even the goal anymore. It's almost just acceptable to leave the house. This is how you're supposed to be. And, I was never the Pinterest mom. Thankfully I was like the Pinterest gone wrong mom, those are more fun anyway. Yeah. So I had to battle with that and self-image and all of these things. And what it comes down to is, have you read the giraffe chapter yet? That's the
yeah. I got through the giraffe chapter.
This is what it comes down to. We believe that our validation is on the outside, and that's where we seek it. And that is what we're teaching. Unfortunately, in the age that we're in, this is what kids are learning, is that likes and, pictures and trophies and all of these things are so important to tell us, and our achievements, that we're acceptable as people instead of who we are and the core of ourselves. And so from the beginning, we need to be teaching that the validation comes from the inside. And so if someone tells me that I'm a giraffe, I'm not going to question it. I know I'm not a giraffe. I'm going to think they're nuts. Why would you say I'm a giraffe? It doesn't make sense. But if someone tells me that I'm inadequate, I'm going to question it. I'm going to wonder. And it's nothing to do with the other person's opinion. Because when they told me something I knew was a lie, I had no problem. But if they hit on something where I have that doubt, I have that fear, I have that vulnerability, I'm going to question it. And the empowering part of that is that I control my truth, my beliefs. And so if I can just believe with the same conviction that I believe I'm not a giraffe, that I am, the person that I say that I am, the person that I am becoming, the things that I believe in, then nobody on the outside can touch that. I have the power, and, nobody can change my truth. And now I can have that confidence to go be my authentic self and know this is what makes me great. You might not like it, but that just means that from your vantage point and your perspective, you don't quite understand it. It may not fit in that world, but I know what I'm capable of. And I know the work I put in, and nobody else knows that. Nobody else knows all of the angles of your truth. So why would you want your validation from the outside? They've only got a single perspective that they're looking at. They don't know the whole truth. And I think that's really empowering, but we have to teach that from the very beginning. We also have to teach self-acceptance. And so that was the journey I was on. We also have to learn how to do it with other people. I need to appreciate the fact that somebody's different, because it makes them so unique and way more fun to hang out with when they're not exactly the same as me. And so teaching that value and appreciation, and then sharing it. I really appreciate how you looked at that differently. We need to tell people that so that they're encouraged to do it more.
I love that. I think that's such a powerful message. And I think so many people can grow from that, because that's a big part of being free to then attack everything in front of you. Because if you're not worried about what the outside world thinks, if you're not questioning, well, is that person right about this, then it frees you up to just go forward and be strong and deliver the strength in your message and things like that. And I see that in this book. I know I'm only halfway through, but I really have appreciated the way it's been written and how powerful it is, because it does resonate with me. Is we are all questioning ourselves throughout life. Did I do this right? Did I do enough of that? Is this the right path? Am I going the right way? Or what, all those different things, those are all part of that journey. And so I do appreciate that for sure. I know a few of the characters in the book are based on people in your life. What was it like to immortalize people from your life into the pages of this book?
It was really fun. Trent is of course based on my buddy Trent from up in Minneapolis, and we had a great time. We put together a podcast last year and had some really fun interviews, a lot of laughs, and he is such a unique person. He introduced me actually to the word inimitable, which immediately I was like, this is amazing. I'm doing something with this. This is such a cool word, and it's something you can embrace. It comes from, the Hamilton show. So there's a song in there, I am inimitable. And so it's already cool. But I was like, man, so many people don't know what this is. And when I did the audiobook, I was like, oh gosh, I have to pronounce this over and over again. So I was tripping up a little bit. Inimitable. I had to practice. Yeah. But he's such a unique guy. And so he loves Frank Sinatra. That's Life is his favorite song. All that came from things, cues from him that I wanted to put into the story. I used his kids' names for, Emma and Trent Jr. actually are his kids. And then my kids' names are all in there. And I don't even think they've read the book yet. I just got them. I just got the copies of them in. So I told them, you guys got to read it because you might be in there. But, for me, when I'm writing it, to be able to pull, from some of that made it so real to me, and just made me feel so close to the story, my own journey, and then these cool traits of people that I love that are in there.
Yeah, no, I think that's just a special thing. And that's something that I think ties you to the story even more. And like you said, it brings out the characters, it brings them to life a little bit more. So what I'm curious about a little bit too is, obviously, what I mentioned before is you released Stick Together, and then you came back and you released this one. Stick Together was a collaborative effort, while this one was more of a solo effort, as far as at least on the title page, you're not co-authoring. What were some of the differences between co-authoring something and then doing it by yourself that you discovered in these two projects?
Stick Together was, when you co-author with John, and I'm sure it's different for every co-author that writes a book with John, a lot of times, we'll bring a kind of a finished project to him. So I brought Stick Together. It was already written to him. But then John does what John does, which is he goes through it and he says, we need to change this part up a little bit here. Let's add this. He simplifies things so well. He puts those key quotes in great places, those great takeaways. And so he just polished it and made it really great. There's the obvious advantage of John's got an incredible following. So I didn't have to do quite as much on the promo on that side. So I'm learning, okay, I need to get out there and get this in front of people. And he was great, brought me on his podcast. But it's hard to do by yourself. It's really nice to have somebody where you can just bounce stuff off of and they add things. And so I tried to do that as much as I could. Trent was great. I actually wrote the story relatively quickly. but then spent about a year editing, taking things out, adding things back in as it went through that process. But the original story, just like Stick Together, was actually written relatively quickly. It's just the polishing that comes in. But it was just nice having John there to bounce stuff off of. Other than that, it was very similar. It's just when it's inside you, it just comes out. And I don't know how, people ask me, how did you get the ideas? And I don't know. I don't really know. While I was writing, I didn't always even know where I was going to go with it. Same with Stick Together. How they solved the thing in Stick Together, I didn't know till I got to that part. I was still like, I wonder how this is going to end. I have no idea. Awesome. And I changed the ending a little bit of Superpower as I went through it, because man, there is something about writing that is the best way to learn a lesson. And you may not be there yet, but if you just start writing, by the time you get to the end, you will be. You have just transformed yourself through the book. And if you get to the end of the story, when I read the audiobook, I was tearing up while I was reading the audiobook, because I knew I transformed as I wrote it. And when you get to that point, you're good. It's where it needed to go.
No, I love that. And I love the process that you just explained, because that sounds a lot like my process. I write really fast, but I don't really know where I'm going a lot of the times. It's just one of those like, this sounds good, let's go here. And then I look back and I go, that's not even a sentence. What is that? So I understand that polishing and waiting part is just got to be the most frustrating thing. But what I want to know is, what are some of the things you learned about the marketing aspect and getting it out there and then promoting it, being on your own this time versus having that ability to use John and have that name attached to it? Because I'm sure that was a big difference this time around.
Absolutely. I had to, I didn't have a built-in huge list of people to just shoot it out on, in an email to, and, oh, the sales just come in. Or, with John, it's like, oh, another John Gordon book. I'm just going to buy it. I don't really care what it's about. I know it's going to be great stuff, and I haven't built that platform. It takes a little bit of time. He's been doing this since 2010, I guess. So it's really just about, I'm confident that this is a message that needs to get heard. I'm confident that this is in a format that's readable by just about any age. How do I get it in front of people? And so you have to build a tribe. It has to be a mission. You have to invite people on your mission, and you have to get them excited about it. And so I needed to get the book in people's hands, and I just got the books in. So I think I'm going to have I think it's doing really well right now, but it's going to be almost a late start, because once people see what it is, I think they're immediately going to think of someone else who they want to read this. Wow, I know somebody who would really like this. And so I think it's going to build momentum. So it's really getting in front of people. That's going to be the biggest hurdle. And so that's my mission right now. I'm about to leave tomorrow. I'm going to be on I'm going to be in a different city every day for about 8 days. And then I'm going to come home and collapse in a heap. And then I'm going to start again, and I'm going to keep going until I feel like, I've left my mark. And that's the goal. So
tell me a little bit about, what are you most excited about when it comes to Superpower? What really, just in this story, what lights you up about this movie?
I love being able to shift a perspective, because in my life, and we may have talked about this last time. I remember the last time I was on, but I had the pulmonary embolism and after my shoulder surgery, and my perspective shift went from, I'm so angry that this shoulder surgery that was supposed to bring me back to all my activities was actually turned into being on blood thinners and having all my activities taken away. So I was so angry about what I lost, until I shifted my perspective to, oh my goodness, I'm one of the very few people that survived this. I have an entire life to live. I've been gifted a second chance at life. That perspective shift was so powerful. When I wrote Stick Together, and John and I put that out, I started talking about the 7 principles. And people read the book, very simple, doesn't dig into the principles too deeply. But when they went through the workshops or the talks, my goal was, I want you to look at ownership. I want you to look at, love and connection and all these things completely differently than you used to, in a way that you get so excited that you can't wait to work with your team on these words. And with Superpower, I just kept that in mind, and I tried to build the perspective shift into the book. It'll be great. I don't put myself out of job. I still want to come out and talk to everybody, but I want you to be able to read the book and go, wow, I'm changing how I see this opportunity. And if it can help anybody open their mind to seeing somebody else's truth, if it can help somebody look in the mirror at something that they have been trying to hide for a long time and go, that's me, that's just a part of me, that's what makes me, who I am and different from the person next to me, and people recognize me by this, and they love me for the whole person that I am, not for the package I present. I mean, who cares about what you're wrapped in? For goodness sakes, we are so carried away with what everything's wrapped in that, it's like throwing away the present, And so that's what I'm excited about is empowering someone to feel good about who they can be, who they are, where they're going, and the people around them. And to just, it's been such a hard few years for everybody. I want to bring some joy and some self-love and all of these things back. And with mental health being where it is between kids and adults, if there's anything that can help bring some joy into this world and I can be a piece of it, then I want to be there for it.
What would you say would be your biggest fear of this project?
Ooh, the biggest fear of any project, being inimitable requires vulnerability. And if I am going to put out something, it's on Amazon, you guys, you could go to Amazon, you could tear me up if you want to, and please don't, I'm very sensitive. I may not seem it, but I really am. But, it is very vulnerable to put this out there and, have somebody order 500 copies for their Fortune 500 company and give it out to their leadership. And what if they open it, sight unseen, like, oh, Kate Leavell wrote it. Great. We loved her other book. They're going to open it and go, this is a story about a kid. Why did I just buy this for my, organization? And so it's a little terrifying. And I don't care if you're an artist or if you're putting together a project for work or school, it's vulnerable. And so the fears come in with, do I believe what I'm teaching right now? Like, am I a giraffe? Is somebody going to go on that review and tell me I'm a giraffe and I'm going to go sit in the closet and cry because I might be turning into one? Or am I going to say, you know what? I put this out because I have a purpose and a passion and a mission. And even if nobody liked it, I would put it out because this is something on my heart and I don't want to take it to the grave with me, but it is a fear, I think everybody struggles with that little bit of self-doubt.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think the vulnerability piece is a big part of putting something special into the world. Like if you were afraid to do it, we would miss out on so many great things. And I think that's the big step that we can all take from this is sometimes you got to take that leap. And if you believe in it, like you said, that's all you can do and put out the best work you have. And I think that's a special thing. So
if you're not a little bit scared of it, if you're not a little bit scared of it, it's not big enough. If you feel comfortable putting it out, you are taking zero risk. And that means you're not going to impact change. And I don't know about you, but I want to be a part of something. I want to get to the end of my life and say I contributed. I don't want to get to the end of my life and say I walked along someone that contributed, or I sunk the words in the competition that someone else was singing and I got to win the prize at the end. I'm not going to feel very good about that. I want to participate. And if that means that I'm going to fall down a couple times or someone's going to point and laugh, that's okay. Because I'm going to get to the end and say I gave something to myself.
No, yeah. I love that. And I often say that, at some point you're going to have to draw your own map. You got to stop following everybody else's, and you're going to have to brave the path that forge forward and hope that it's the right one. You might fall in a pothole or something like that, but you're at least moving your own map. So
yeah, absolutely.
Last time we talked, I want to get into something here. You shared an activity that I've been using with my athletes. It's one where it was a task where you take a bunch of markers and you throw it in the air, and if you tell them to catch them all, they can't. But if you tell them to focus on the red marker, most of the time they're going to catch it because that's just the way it works when we focus on something. So what I want to know is, what's your red marker these days?
Ooh, my red marker. So I actually built several activities into the book on purpose because people seem to enjoy the activities that I do. And I think this just came from years of coaching and going, how do I get kids to pay attention and also learn? And so I just started getting really creative. And it's carried over because people also need that in keynotes and other, big, hot, stuffy rooms. So one of my favorites is a perspective box. And so this is, have you gotten to this part yet? You might not have hit the perspective.
I don't think I'm at the perspective box yet.
All right, don't worry. It's not going to ruin anything.
All right,
so
cool.
the perspective box is a box of note cards. And so you can create this yourself. And on each note card is a different experience. And the idea is, it's kind of like the inviting the other person to see your side of the M or the W. It's one thing to have an opinion that differs. It's another thing to explain the experience that created that belief for you. Because now I not only understand what you think, but I understand why. And we want to know why, because then our brain can piece it together, because otherwise we're looking at their reasoning with our why and going, it doesn't fit. And we can't make sense of it. And it's a lot harder for us to accept it. And really, we could say we do, but somewhere in there, it just doesn't line up. So you take out one. And so one would be, and you could make these anything, but I start with things that are very on the surface, because if you practice on the surface, then you can gradually get to the point where you can talk about things that are very heated, controversial, and stay calm. But you don't want to start there. So you start with something like, roller coasters are really fun, horrible. I've never been on one, whatever. And then you have to explain why or what experience made you think that. So you go around your circle or your group and each person shared, I think roller coasters are great. I went on this one. I went on it 20 times in a row. It was the best thing ever. And then the next person's like, hey, I really hate roller coasters because my brother threw up and it, hit me in the face or whatever. I'm never going on a roller coaster again, whatever. But now you're going, okay, I can see why you think roller coasters are horrible now because you had that experience. But there's a lot of different subjects in the box. And so once you go through that, then the next person pulls a card and then you all go around the circle and you share. And once you get to the end, you've all learned something about each other, about how you think, about your experiences in life. It's kind of like an extended hero highlight hardship, sharing, but without having to, maybe name it or label it like that. And then you can gradually, if it's a group or a class, something that, a team, you could gradually make those get a little bit harder, a little bit deeper as you go through until you get to the point where you say, okay, we're now going to share our opinions on something that's very difficult to talk about, including hard conversations, not just society questions, which there's so many that we need to talk about just for the sake of understanding, but also those hard team conversations. What if it's a sports team and we're not doing what we need to do, or people are partying, or, we have an issue? We've now been trained how to discuss, well, here's why I made that decision and why I thought it was okay at the time, and then at the end you can say, okay, what perspective shift did you have after learning, from your teammates? And in business, if you think you don't need this on a business team, then you're mistaken, because you're talking about people who relocate from all over the country, different backgrounds, different everything. They're in the same building and you're telling them, I need you to complete these tasks. You're going to have to rely on each other. Our company depends on it to be successful. And you may all have completely different opinions and thoughts about things in society and here on how things should get done. If we can get people on the same page, imagine what you could accomplish. Imagine who would stay. Imagine who you would attract into your organization. It's powerful. This isn't just something for kids or for sports. This is for everybody. The whole world needs to do it, honestly.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that would be a fun project to do because you get to learn about people. But then I think, like you said, it opens the door for the powerful conversations, the tough conversations, because we need those tough conversations. And right now, it just turns into a shouting match when you get into the tough conversations.
It's training. You can scream all day that it's an M or a W. I mean, go ahead. But I don't know where you're going to be at the end of the day.
Right. So, as we wind down here, what I want to do is give you an opportunity to direct people to where they can find Superpower, or if they're looking for a team read, because I know a bunch of coaches listen to this and they want to get you to come out or get it for their team this year. Where can they get those copies, connect with you, and see what you're doing next?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the books luckily are out. So yesterday officially released, or yesterday of today when we're recording this. So they're anywhere books are sold. If you don't see them at your local, like Barnes & Noble, they'll just order them for you. You can get them on Amazon, and then you can find me on my website. That's all the same, kateleavell.com. That's probably the most central place. And you can reach out to me through the website as well. So yeah, I love, Zooms or in-persons, talks, workshops, half day, full day trainings. any of those are really fun. We've got some cool t-shirts actually with some stick figures on it, which our t-shirt guy is doing some like custom ones. We did one for nutrition school services. And so it's got people like stick figures that are cooking on the Superpower shirt. And there's a soccer one. And anyway, they're pretty cute. So yeah, we're just trying to get this out there. And then I've got some study guides and then some teacher curriculum that's going to be coming out as well that I'm just kind of putting together. So
speaking of teacher curriculum, you mentioned last time you were doing a course for Denver University. Has that launched? Has that been going?
It did. I think they launched it last year. You know, COVID hung it up a little bit, and they ended up having to do some virtual, I think. But yeah, so that's up and going for the student athletes. I don't know what they're doing this year. I know the, Carlton Creech, I believe, is stepped down or retired or whatever. So he's moving on to some really cool stuff. So he's just phenomenal. Did an amazing job at University of Denver. But yeah, that's a really, really cool program where they're going through a lot of John Gordon's content and activities all the way from freshman year till graduation when they do their capstone.
I think that's a really special thing. I remember you talking about it last time. So I think that's a very neat thing. I'm looking forward to hearing how that all turns out, because I think that more places should do stuff with leadership and helping
huge
those.
Competitive advantage to say, hey, I went through 4 years of leadership training, practical application of leadership training. I don't know what other employee is going to come to you with that, on graduation.
Right.
So
right. Well, Kate,
it's a great asset.
Thank you so much for taking time to join me today. It was an absolute pleasure to catch up and talk again. I wish you the best of luck with this new book, and I'm excited to finish it up here, hopefully the next day or so.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear what you think about it, and good luck with, the next steps for you. And, I'll see you next year when you're having number 4. Will it be number 4 next time? Okay. All right.
Well,
well, good. No problem.
Yeah. As always, guys, keep reaching for the stars. Fall flat on your face, but remember, whenever we fall, always get up.
Thank you for joining us today on the Edge of Greatness podcast. If you haven't yet, please take a minute now to subscribe and review our show. Join us again next week as we continue to dig deeper into the key components of greatness. The path to greatness is never linear, so remember to keep pursuing greatness no matter what. Keep stretching your abilities, reach for the stars, and fall flat on your face. But remember, no matter what happens, whenever we fall, always get up. Until next time, I'm Charles Schultz, and this was the Edge of Greatness podcast.